Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This week's episode of Doctor Who Flux, The War for the Sontarans. Was it a Sontar Ha? Or was it a Sontar Ho?
Yeah, that'll do it. I'll do it nicely.
Today I'll be doing my little in-depth review of episode 2 of Flux. So let's get into this. I was going to start my review with how I enjoyed things, you know, the dialogue, the cast, you know, Dan going full Jedi with a wok. But I thought I'd start off with something that wasn't too obvious. So, the day after the episode, I get a little message off my friend. And he tells me that there's a Lung Barrow reference from the books. I think this book came out in I think it was late 90s. I only read it recently. I read it during lockdown. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'm not going to spoil the story. It is up there with Doctor Who Players for me for a book, which is a brilliant book. You should read some more of the old classic books. They're fantastic. But the Lung Barrow reference was the grey house that was raising up at the start that the Doctor was reaching for. That was a little bit of a reference towards Lung Barrow, apparently. You watch, it'll probably be something totally different, knowing our luck. But I think it's interesting that Chibnall is really trying to stick things to the wall. You know, with the mystery of the Doctor and understanding what's going on with the Flux and Swarm and Azure and everything. But this bit is really intriguing, and to be honest with you, it bugged me all the way through the episode because it was the one thing in the episode that didn't make sense. Where did she go? What was she thinking? What was that thing? And if it is Lung Barrow, get yourself some reading material because that book is superb. The next thing I think I said in my previous video was that the Hads would kick in to save the Doctor, Yaz and Dan. They didn't. The Tardis crashed in time and displaced them in time rather than space, because with Hads, if you'd watched Cold War or one of the Second Doctor stories, when the Hads kick in, the Tardis goes to a safe place in space, not time, because if it was time, the Doctor would never get the Tardis back. So the Tardis obviously took a hit for the Flux, and the Flux has been affected by vortex energy, and flew the Tardis off to the Crimea, because they woke up in the middle of a war zone with some very angry potatoes and a very confused Mary Sequel. I love this bit. Dan is taking everything in his stride. I was shocked that he took stuff in his stride. You know, he's taken the Tardis in his stride, he's taken the Sontarans in his stride, he's taken Carvanista in his stride, the Lupari, his house shrinking. He's gone through so much in just 2 small episodes. Bless Dan. And I think, you know, I think a vote came out on, I think it was either Doctor Who TV or someone's Twitter this week, where they voted the Chibnall era companions, and Dan was number 1 by a country mile, and that's lovely to see. It was one of the 5 things I wanted out of Doctor Who Flux this year, was to Dan properly knock it for 4 out the boundary. Get it out there, let it be brilliant, and I think Job Bishop is doing a superb job as Dan Lewis. But to be displaced in time and not space, I think was the vortex energy and the Flux hitting the TARDIS at the same time, which displaced them. And I thoroughly enjoyed this bit. And then when Dan and Yaz fall through time with their hands turning blue, I was on tinderhooks, absolute tinderhooks, and it was exciting, and it was we hadn't seen anything like that before. We didn't know the companions could be displaced in time within the TARDIS. Was it because the doors were open? We don't know. Did they fall out of the TARDIS and the vortex threw them out? But the thing is, there's 2 different things, which I'll get to later, of where they ended up, and absolute madness of where they ended up. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, there was Mary Sequel in this, who was the historical figure for the Crimea War along with Mary Nightingale. Is it Mary Nightingale? I think it's Nightingale. I'm bad with names. She was fantastic. I loved all the little tweaks she had, how driven she was, the British Hotel. But like I said, it was a very atypical Doctor Who episode where the Doctor interacts with someone from the military says no, the Doctor proves them wrong, and the military go back begging. That was the one downside of that general. I think that was one of the downsides of the episode. I think was the British officer, and he was very atypical coward, and that is how I describe him. He was an idiot and a coward. But again, I'd like to try and, after the whole bit with the Doctor and everything in the Crimea, we also got Yaz and Dan ended up in two different spaces in time. Yaz has gone back to the beginning. She's ended up on some random place where there's triangles saying, "Can you repair?" Constantly, "Can you repair?" No, I can't repair. But I did love the little thing she's got in her hand of what would the Doctor do, and I don't think she needed it written down on her hand. You've been the Doctor's companion for, I would say, a good few years now. You don't need to have that written on your hand. That was another downside for me. It was made too obvious. All you need to do is put your shoulders back and go, yeah, I can help. Act like the Doctor if you want to act like the Doctor, because Clara did it, Amy did it, Donna's done it. If you're going to do it, do it. Don't make it obvious for people who haven't watched Who before. Give that one to the fans. And again, this is the problem with Chibnall's writing. He made things too obvious and explainy, and you don't need to do that. But again, I'm running it down on the man and not the episode. I thought the episode was great. The Liverpool docks where Dan ends up back home. He ends up back with no house in his pocket. He sees his neighbours and they're all terrified in their houses. He turns around to see Anfield being treated as a Sontaran ship base. At least it's decent for something. Sorry, I'm a Man City fan. I've got to say, I love this bit. I'm meeting Dan's parents. Love them. Absolutely love them. Seeing the docks covered in Sontaran ships. And that they did a little bit more than little kid jokes of the Sontarans. They made them terrifying. You broke the law, you're dead. There wasn't mucking around with these Sontarans. They were classic Sontarans. They killed people. They didn't do the whole Who trope of send them to the barracks, we'll hide them there, the Doctor's got to go waste 5 minutes saving them. But no, they got killed. They were the execution squad. They were killed on the spot for breaking onto the docks. And Dan taking out Sontarans with a wok. I think the best part of it is when he gets the wok given off his dad and he's running out of the hangar, holding the wok like it's a Jedi sword in a brilliant caption. I think I'm going to have that as my PC background because I absolutely loved it. He breaks onto the ship, and in the Crimea, the Doctor's broken onto the ship with Mary Sequel after the base has been evacuated because of the battle in the Crimea. They meet up, they talk directions, they get a plan. It all goes awry, and out of the blue, when Dan is taking out Sontarans with a wok, there's 3 or 4 Sontarans just about to kill him. Carvanista comes up out of nowhere and says he's got a human in this fight, and it was my favourite bit of the whole episode, was Carvanista turning up and being a badass. Loved it. That was brilliant. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Give me more of that. More of... the episode had more, how can I put it? More of a season 6 feeling. The second half of season 6 where it all goes a bit bonkers after the man who goes to war. It's a little bit more let's kill Hitler and everything. It's got that more of a... How can I put it? More of a magical lineal sort of feeling because the Sontarans are in charge of the... a big dock in the British Isles, and You know, the Doctors at the Crimea and the Sontarans are in both at the time in the same place. It was really, really weird. And the reason why I said that, I got a feeling of, you know, when you see Charles Dickens on BBC Breakfast, or you see, you know, the flying cars or the pterodactyls attracting kids in a park for season 6B. I certainly got that feeling from this episode. It was a more magical, mystical episode. But it was more Doctor Who linear, if you know what I mean. It was more A to B. It wasn't, you know, just throw Sontarans, throw Angels, throw Ravagers, throw the Flux, throw... That's what last week's episode did, and it was really... Don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed last week's episode. It was Doctor Who bonkers. This episode was a little slower, but a lot more action-orientated. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, the Can You Repair with Finder and Yaz, and meeting the Muri, who are on a planet called Time, was quite strange. I didn't know there was a planet called Time. I didn't know there was a race called the Maori. I didn't know if there was one. I've never heard of them. If I have, I've probably forgotten. But I've never heard of them. Is this another Timeless Child twist, maybe? Because I had a friend of mine message me, and fair play, we got into an in-depth discussion of, do you know how with this new Doctor Who that's coming from Rusty Davies, it's going to be a new generation, not regeneration. Are we heading for a total reboot? Is this going to be the end of the 60 years of Doctor Who? Is this going to lead up to a massive bang finale in the 60th, and then Series 14 will not be a Series 14, it will be Doctor Who Series 1, Episode 1? Because everything's ending. You know, the universe is not in a great state, it's dying, the Flux can't be stopped, the Maori are a mess, the Swarm turned up with Azure, and this big guy called the Passenger, wearing a Powerball mask from Airsoft. I know that because I've got friends who play Airsoft. I've got to say, I didn't... That was the one thing I didn't like. I didn't like the Passenger in this episode. I really didn't like him. He looked cheap. But Azure and Swarm looked amazing. Their costumes are whoa. You know, I tell you something. When we go to big cons, and I'm going to one in, I think, in 10 days' time, if there's Azure and a Swarm cosplay, I will be taking a picture with it, because I love the way they look. The attitude on Swarm, he's creepy, he's powerful, he's cocky. And this rumour going around, do I think he's the Doctor's dad? No, I don't think he's the Doctor's dad. No, I don't think they're brother or sister. But I do think they are the original race of the Doctors. But the thing is, that wouldn't explain why she came through the hole like a child. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, the story at the moment, the Timeless Child. It just seems to be bringing more questions than there are answers. But anyway, back to the episode. The one bit that I genuinely had a tear in my eye is when the commander of the Sontarans killed that Sontaran with a new Sontaran saying. It's when he goes, I request mercy. You'll get mercy of a merciful death. Sontar Ho. And I thought, oh, that's so simple and so heartbreaking. And he looks down his eye and goes, Sontar Ho. And he just takes him. Oh, look at him, got a tear in my eye. That genuinely made me sad, because the Sontarans, I'm used to them being bombastic and funny, and I've gotten used to them like that. You know, but the ones from the John Pertwee and, you know, the other incarnations over the years, I've gotten used to them being funny. And in the John Pertwee ones, they're not funny. They're pigs of war. They are obsessed with pain and suffering and war and death, and that is what they're part of. Yes, they're in a unique place now, where in Doctor Who lore they can be comedic, but also terrifying at the same time. But the Sontar Ho was a genius bit of writing, just a all it is a letter change. That's all it is. And the way it was perceived to add new lore to the Sontarans was genius. Okay, my little conclusion to episode 2 of Doctor Who Flux, the War of the Sontarans, or as the Sontaran War, as I mistakenly called it, for so many episodes. I really enjoyed this episode. It was a little bit slower. It was a lot more linear A to B. It was a lot more understanding rather than Doctor Who stuff. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Throw it to the fans. Throw it to the fans. Let's hope something sticks. I gave this episode the same as last week's. I gave it an 8.5. And the reason I gave it an 8.5 was it would have got a 9. But some of the writing, and I thought Jodie was a little below par, because as you noticed in my notes that I've got here, not once did I write about the Doctor. Not once. And that's the problem with this generation of Doctor Who. I like Jodie Whittaker as a person. She is written and she is portrayed poorly. And everything else in this episode was great, except her. And that is heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking, and I didn't notice it until yesterday evening when I did these notes. I've watched this episode about 8-9 times now, and Jodie is panic, 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 fix, 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 panic, 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 fix, fix, fix. And I know that's how the Doctor's supposed to be, but not once did she portray calmness. Not once. Even when she's talking to the Sontaran General, she's shouty, I really like this, and you like that, and you're sat there going, really? If that was 11 or 10, he'd have cracked a joke, or, you know, but she chose to insult him with the helmet thing just to make him more angry. That's not a Doctor trait. You know, make them mad by being funny, you know. But there were some bits in this episode that were really, really great, and that's why I gave it an 8.5. I thought Dan, again, was the main event. The man with a whack of a plan was superb. Yaz and Vinder have still got work to do, even though Yaz had a really powerful first episode. I thought the British Army versus the Sontarans and the whole time displacement ship on the docks blowing up everything was fantastic. No Angels and no Diane this week, which was a bit strange. Even though those Angels are in that particular area where Dan was, it just shows how dangerous it is. And it had been 2 or 3 days since Dan was back in Liverpool, so it just goes to show that time was messed about with due to the flux. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. It's got an 8.5 from me. So if you like what I do with the channel, hit the like button. And if you like to continue to support the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get myself to 50 subscribers towards the end of the year, and I'm hoping to hit that goal because I only need 6 more people, and I'm hoping to hit 50, so I hope that's you. So thank you much for the support, guys, and as always, have yourselves a lovely day. Take care. Bye bye.